I wasn't going to bring this up, but you keep talking about that, so it's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to bring it up. Go to a church on Mother's Day. What happens? Flowers, moms are great. There's usually some kind of, video compilation of moms being awesome or whatever, And occasionally I've experienced that on Father's Day, but more often what happens at Father's Day is, you might get a bag of beef jerky at the door or something like that, yay, dads.
Yeah.
And then it's like, yeah, Dad, you got to step up and be the leader of your home. Yeah, Dad, you got to get it figured out. Yeah, Dad, you got to be the leader. Because if the dad leads the home in the Christian way, then 92% of the time the rest of the family follows. And
that statistic.
all of that stuff, man. And none of that's untrue.
Yeah.
The difference between being celebrated and being admonished is palpable.
With God, there is always more. More love, more life, more freedom. Welcome to Zoe's Exploring More with Michael Thompson. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "Our Heavenly Father has provided many delightful inns for us along our journey, but He takes great care to see that we do not mistake any of them for home." Join me and the team as we explore the kingdom together, discovering the deep truths and offering encouragement for the journey. There is always more.
Welcome, friends and allies, to the Exploring More podcast. Michael Thompson hanging out with my big friend SJ Jennings.
Again,
exploring the kingdom, and excited about the start of a new series on, we're calling it the Dad series.
yeah.
We
have stuff.
Yeah, original Dad School.
Dad school, dadish,
Dad class, Dad journey, the Dad sessions.
Dadapalooza.
So, this is a series about fatherhood, being a dad, and we had quite the time. It's been a great time kind of whiteboarding all this out in pre-production and seeing just how much we had to explore and opportunities to not only, and this is the tricky part, SJ, it's not only in this series, we're playing both parts. We're playing both roles. We're sons, even at this stage and age of our lives, and we're also fathers. You're a father of one. Well, you're a father of three if you count your married in daughter, and then you had a daughter that
went ahead of us. Yeah. And then two adopted boys, too,
that's right,
that I didn't legally adopt, but they call me Dad. And
yeah, that's a good. So, and then I have three and adult children, 3 daughters, and inherited a son-in-law, son-in-love. Sometimes people say it. So qualified in some ways to talk about this, and at the same time, very qualified for the confessions of a lot of this. So
the confession sessions.
Yeah. So there's that. I think that's going to be apparent, in this series as we talk about it. What are some of the missional goals and what direction? And we've been in this message now 30 and 20 years of moving towards our own hearts. And I would just kick off with that, bro, that the best thing you can do as we introduce this thing, the best thing you can do for your kids' hearts, their masculine or feminine journey, is get yours back.
No question.
The more...
Hands down.
The more, and it's the best thing you can do, period, for your marriage. We were talking with a bunch of guys this morning, and pornography came up, and I'm more and more convinced, bro, that you don't, to attack that, you really need to go and recover from your past, because that monster is connected to typically some things you either got, but probably things you didn't get.
Yeah.
In your boyhood along the way. And so,
most of the time, too, I would say not connected to anything of that nature.
Yeah.
There's just some other It's
it
like
plays out in that.
coming home and, having a bunch of whiskey every night or, drinking 12 beers.
Yeah.
It's a attempt at a remedy.
Yeah, exactly. So I
So,
think
yeah,
I think
getting your heart
that's.
back.
I just want to put that on the table that you're walking with God to recover and restore your heart, your masculine heart as a dad. That's what they need. They need a man who is living more and more from his true self and less from his false self.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, we'll be right back on the Exploring More podcast.
Every great adventure starts with preparation, a place to gather, rest, and equip ourselves for the journey ahead. In the same way, Zoe's Base Camp is here for you, an online resource library created to encourage and strengthen Zoe allies on the road to deeper connection, healing, and restoration. A base camp is a staging ground, a place to prepare for the next leg of your expedition. At Zoe, Base Camp is a resource library designed to help you and our allies gear up for the journey of the heart. It is packed with devotionals, discussion guides, and podcasts to help you deepen your relationship with God and one another. When you visit Base Camp, you'll find a growing collection of resources, each crafted to guide you and the men in your circles on your walk with God. Each series that you find below includes a devotion plan with supplemental video content from the Explore More podcast. The devotionals are designed for both personal reflection and small group discussions, helping you dig deeper into God's truth while building meaningful relationships. On the Base Camp website, you will see the various series that we have available. When you click on a series, you'll have the opportunity to download the PDF devotion plan and the discussion guide questions. This also includes an invitation to reflect in time alone with God. Share the plan with your small group and send out the podcast videos for members to watch on their own time. Then, when you gather, dive into conversations about what God is revealing to each of you. Base Camp is more than a resource library. It's a tool for building redemptive brotherhood on the road to experiencing more life, more love, and freedom with God. Start your journey today, explore Base Camp, and reach out to us at allies@zoe.org if you have any further questions.
Welcome back to the Exploring More podcast, and we're entering into the Dad series, session 1. And
Before we get into anything too serious, I just want to bring up, I've noticed recently there's been a resurgence of the popularity of dad jokes.
oh yeah,
I mean, like, they're everywhere now.
yeah,
And I feel so validated because one of my goals as a dad with my son, if he was here, he would tell you some stories, is to tell jokes that just make him roll his eyes
yeah,
all the way back into his head. Like,
yeah,
Dad, that's awful.
yeah.
So I love a good dad joke.
Well, we'll have to bring some more of those to the, because I get stuck watching some of those reels, and if you start clicking that,
Oh, man.
you're gonna get a lot more.
There's no doubt.
And there are some that we would not share on the Exploring More podcast, but there, yeah, let's find some and we can open up some of the episodes going forward. I think that this will be a great lead up to Father's Day. And the last thing I want to say in introduction, as this is truly the introductory episode, is, man, SJ, I want, I don't want this to be either heavy-handed or chest poking or
No, we've had enough of that.
yeah, or even exhorting. I think that most men, they do care a tremendous amount about this. And from the annals of their story, from the records of their journey, we got to talk a little bit about how you were fathered and what your dad was like in order to really address this thing in a way that I hope would be encouraging, because frankly, man, I would go on to use the phrase most. What is that? 60% plus. If you're at 60% or plus, you're probably in the most category. Most men were ill-equipped in their boyhood chapters to be really good dads.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And so,
how old were you when Ashley was born?
When Ashley was born, 29.
Yeah, I was 24.
Yeah, 28.
I was Caleb's age.
Yeah.
When Stephen was born. So
yeah,
that's not a commentary about Caleb. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
When I was 24, buddy,
Yeah.
I didn't even know.
And then by 34, we had 3.
Yeah.
And Robin was trying to get rid of my dog. I mean, poor
too
Gibson.
many people needing stuff.
That's right. My lab ended up in Oklahoma with my mom and dad.
Yeah.
Gibson got the. Yeah, he pushed her over the edge with, a 5-year-old, 3-year-old, and newborn.
But just to your point, man, at 24, this message didn't find me for another 13 years after that. And, as a disoriented dad from 24 to, my mid to late 30s.
Yeah.
Even into my 40s, I still wasn't handling Stephen's heart all that well because I was still not oriented. So there's a 16-year chunk there of the kid's life that I'm just making it up, and operating out of woundedness and false self. So it's a great.
We've done the oriented series, Nothing to Hide, Nothing to Prove, Nothing to Fear series. I mean, these are all really important because it's going to play out in how you're a dad, and what that looks like, and yet, we have this affinity for our dads, even as older men who are dads.
Well, it's wired in us.
It's wired in.
It's in our DNA to long for our father's approval. I asked it at the weekend in the spring. A room of 300 guys. What do you, if your dad was here right now and you could hear something from him, what would it be? I'm proud of you. The room just said, I'm proud of you, son.
Almost as if they were cued, right?
Yeah, man. So it's just in us.
So it makes it, I think the weightiness of that is just easy to say. It's a great job. It's an important job. It's a hard job. Walking with little hearts, and even when they get big, there's a part of them that's still little.
Mm-hmm. That's true about us.
Had our friend Rick Sovereign, who was just at Disney celebrating his daughter's graduation from nursing school.
And she wanted to go to Disney World?
And it was Disney World, yeah. The nursing
or Disneyland.
Disney World. And
oh, wow, they came all the way to Florida?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, Amy and
he's a Seattle guy.
But this magical kingdom, this space, who wanted, she wanted to experience that. So I think that as we get into the components of the masculine and feminine heart, we'll talk some more about that. But I think it's just important right now to just establish, as we set out, that it's a role that not all but most men will play. And I was looking at some of our notes, SJ. It's not really a calling. It's not a calling. It's a role. You bring your glory and the calling that's on you from God to the role.
Right.
And versus I was called to be a dad. No, if you have a kid, you're a dad.
Mm-hmm.
You're a father. But what kind of dad and how that looks. Another thing I'd want to say about this as we get into it, it's not a calling, it's a role. And you're going to bring your good and your not so good to it.
Right. True self, false self.
And I think this is the place where I know it is. So confidently and emphatically, I would say this is the stage, whether it's warrior stage in your 20s or 30s, or it's later, But this is the stage, and only when this role is given to you as a dad, there are only things. There are only things that are just waiting to come up and out as you now are a dad.
Boy, oh boy.
The role is that, back to the role is that weighty. The role is that significant. The opportunity to wound, the opportunity to bless, to love. Yeah. All of that it's in this package.
No question.
Of, here's your business card, Dad.
And they're unique. That's your point. Is like the only way those buttons are even known about,
unveiled,
is because
uncovered.
you become a dad, and buttons get pushed, and kids spill milk. They don't do their homework. They're not paying attention, and that button, and otherwise you wouldn't even probably know it was there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's not like babysitting or helping an older sibling with their kids.
Yeah.
You're an uncle and an aunt and you're young.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a way of bringing up some things that actually could be for you to explore with God and work through for healing. And if not, then the legacy, the unfortunate legacy, would continue. It's amazing to me how many men confess, I was never going to be like my dad. There's no way.
Oh man.
And they confess that I was like my dad. And
It's
that's how
that.
deep in there it is.
That's a contract that gets signed when you say that stuff, man.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
It's really.
So all the more, let's
interesting.
talk about it. Let's explore it, and let's see, what kind of encouragement, not, I think of, what kind of riot act, or what kind of even it can be punishing to even talk about this stuff. It feels like you're indicting.
I wasn't going to bring this up, but you keep talking about that, so it's like, I'm going to bring it up. Go to a church on Mother's Day. What happens? Flowers, moms are great. There's usually some kind of, video compilation of moms being awesome or whatever, And occasionally I've experienced that on Father's Day, but more often what happens at Father's Day is, you might get a bag of beef jerky at the door or something like that, yay, dads.
Yeah.
And then it's like, yeah, Dad, you got to step up and be the leader of your home. Yeah, Dad, you got to get it figured out. Yeah, Dad, you got to be the leader. Because if the dad leads the home in the Christian way, then 92% of the time, the rest of the family follows. And
that statistic.
all of that stuff, man. And none of that's untrue.
Yeah.
But just the difference between being celebrated and being admonished is palpable.
Right.
Have
I told you the story? I think I used it a few years ago about the Mother's Day thing, just to put another, why is that?
Yeah.
So the story goes, a kind of a prison fellowship ministry had this chaplain had gotten a hold of hundreds and hundreds of Mother's Day cards in advance for the inmates to just literally come, pour it on a table.
Pick one,
take them, and we'll mail them, kind of thing. And the story goes, they were all consumed, all taken. And that's in May, mid-May, as Mother's Day. It went so well. This chaplain thought, well, we ought to do this again for Father's Day. So same thing, a week or so out, brought all the cards. No, a fraction of the cards were taken. Almost none.
Wow.
And I remember reading that going, I get it. It's the role. And these are characters in a story that's real and true. That what does that mean? What does that say?
Yeah.
About the relationship of, a lot of males can father a child, but not many can be a dad.
Yeah, man.
And can step into that role. And so, yeah, what does that look like? And how can we encourage these guys?
Yeah, the weight, again, like you've said it, the weight of the role, and, when it doesn't go well, and a man's dad has either wounded him through his presence, his absence, what he said, what he didn't, all of those things, they add up to there's a different weight. Now, let me say that to say this, mother wounds are significant as well.
Yeah.
Many, many men that we've talked to, deeply impacted by the ways we've talked about the mother wound at our weekends and even on this podcast. But there's something about the father.
Okay. Let me tell you something. So, as you soft toss that one in.
Mm-hmm.
So this role is literally between capital F and lowercase f. Father is the role, namesake. I mean, I don't know when that dawned on me. It was more in the last decade or so of working with men and walking in men's spaces. This is really, really significant that here's the Heavenly Father. This is what the Scriptures, capital F, Father, this is how we name the first part, I would say, of the Trinity is Father, and we're small f.
Yeah.
In our little growing kingdoms,
small k kingdoms.
Boom. There. I mean, that's enough. That's enough to say it is big deal, and I think it's, other than being a husband, or in addition to being a husband, this is the most violently opposed. These are the two roles as a man, roles. You can be a husband, which you learned a lot from your parents' marriage, what it was, what it wasn't, and you bring that down the aisle with you. Well, you take this thing home with you, this little one home with you, and you're a father now. And what kind of father will you be? It's just that cool, and it's that significant to have the namesake of father.
Yeah, it's interesting that you brought up the marriage and being married, because I think in the context of the kingdom, when you get married, you're entering into a covenant. You're entering into a contract,
Mm-hmm. With another image
bearer, and the two become one. And yet that can be severed, right? You can divorce, right? Yeah. Which is traumatic, I know. But it happens, and it can happen. But once you're a dad, you're a dad. Like once you're a father, you're a father. Let me say it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's something in the kingdom about that's irrevocable.
Yeah. Even though, like we just had lunch with a guy, and there was another one a few days ago when we were out just with a little R&R with our mm-hmm. friend JD at his place, and just guys who haven't talked to their kids in a decade. So the way that they even share that as a great disappointment to them.
Lament.
And there can be a lot in that.
Of course.
In that headline, under that headline, there can be such a great deal. And so I think that being an image bearer as a father, and I think there's the mother heart of God as well. So there's the mom wounds as well.
Mm-hmm.
But this we're talking about dads. The other thing I want to say about it that makes it so cool and so weighty is Jesus's relationship, the son's relationship with the father.
Mm-hmm.
And we could spend a lot of time on this.
Yeah,
but
God and Joseph. right? Who was his surrogate dad,
Yeah.
right? I mean, how did all that work? Anyway, yes, we could do a whole episode on that.
But he's about his Father's business. He's about the kingdom. You know, Jesus. So when you get to John 14, and this is, you know, moving towards those chapters in John, which are really the last with the disciples, and you get to the John 17 and the high priestly prayer, and but this is him hanging out, talking about the Father and the Holy Spirit, and this is Jesus talking. So you get to John 14, and it's the big question: show us the Father. And, you know, I'm sure the spirit of that question was like, is there a portal? You know, can you pull this back?
Right.
Somehow, I mean,
we're with you, the Messiah, the Son of God. Can you show us your dad?
Yes. Is your dad home?
Yeah.
And Jesus says the coolest thing, right? And, you know, I think I don't know how mad or upset he was. I just have this image of him being more, this is personal, that I feel like he's just like.
So funny, man. We're in season 4 of The Chosen, and we just had a moment like that where I think it's John, Big John, Little John.
Mm-hmm.
They ask to be at the right hand and the left hand, and he's like,
oh, he does that? Good. That's how.
But then he starts to actually cry because they don't know what they're asking,
and he knows what
yes.
is ahead for them in the midst of all that. So, but in this context, I think that's what he says to. I think it's Philip. So, but I love this line. Then he says, "If you've seen me, you've seen the Father." Now, I wanna just move that over a little bit to us.
Yeah.
And say, that's what a dad could say. That's what a dad could say to his sons, to his daughters. Because there is a projection that's taking place as the authority figure father, small f. They are looking at you, and they will translate what they see and how they experience that to Father God, to some degree. It is inescapable.
Yeah. And let me just add, because you didn't say it yet, it's not always an accurate image of Father God, right? Because we are the vast majority of the time. There's very few guys I've known. Hopefully the number increases as we get even younger guys coming to the encounter that were oriented when their children were born.
Right.
The way that we talk about it.
Yeah.
Right. And operating out of that place of healing and training. Yeah. So you're yes, absolutely. Oftentimes it's a corrupted view of who God is.
Well, because
of the brokenness
and
of
the wounding
of their earthly father.
Right. All that.
Yeah.
So but that is, when I think of the mission of it, the role and the goal,
holiness.
What are we trying to do here?
The weightiness.
As dads, we're trying to do anything and everything we can on a day-to-day basis to promote and project. If you've seen me, you've seen the Father. How I'm handling your heart, and it's very difficult. It was not Dallas Willard. I'll think of it in a minute. It was an old seminary professor that said it's almost impossible to give what you do not have.
Oh,
Howard Hendricks.
I knew it was an H.
It was Howard Hendricks. To bestow on someone what has not been bestowed on you.
That's right.
That's why recovery is so important for you.
No question.
That's why healing is so critical for you as a man who has the role of a father and the role of a husband. You get to bring that to those significant roles.
Mm-hmm.
Father God has a family, right? And you've been adopted into the family.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of these parallels are not just,
as a beloved son.
That's really,
right?
really interesting that.
Yeah.
No, it's
They're
the
related.
way it's set up
and
the way that it's been intended. And so
yeah.
I think this is something that, I want to talk more about even from our weekends. And we got Father's Day, with Nathan Jameson up in the Philly area. Get to go do a Saturday.
Berwyn, Pennsylvania.
That's right, Berwyn, Dad's Day.
Just outside of Philly.
Having a Dad's Day. And I think this John 14 thing is part of that in the weightiness of the role. So no wonder, we want to and need to do it well. And again, I think you're right. It's been far more in the criticism category rather than the invitational category. Mm-hmm. And you said something really important I want to circle back to and say, we weren't oriented men when we started our dad journeys.
Right, as dads. Yeah.
And not perfect, and even now as oriented men, not perfect. But I can say with confidence, and I believe if my 3 girls were here, they would say the same, that, yeah, he's way better.
Oh, yeah.
He's way better than he was.
Mm-hmm.
And we have had honest conversations about the wounding and the pain. And even in trying to work through those, I have made mistakes. But I've learned. I've learned why that trying to explain or trying to give information regarding something that hurt them, so that they could understand me, just what a crime that is, versus moving more and more towards understanding them. And
that's again another part of the nuance of the role of dad.
Yeah.
Right. You have to oftentimes put aside what might feel best for you for the benefit of your children.
You do it all the time in many, many ways.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I remember when Stephen and I were kind of getting to a place where I was able to listen well enough to actually hear some of the things he wanted to share with me. And I kind of wanted to take out the film and say, well, here's how that actually happened,
But he wasn't asking.
He was not.
He wasn't asking about that.
No, man.
No,
the way he remembered it is the way he remembered it. And so I wanted to, honor it in that moment. So you just take that as a dad, you have to be ready. That's part of the role. And I'm getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but part of the role to take the hit for the benefit of your kids and your family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they're not, I love that. And where it takes me, SJ, is they're not always trying to hit back.
No.
But they are trying to tell you where you hit them and how that hurt. And if you say, well, you shouldn't have stood so close, or well, that was a tough time in our marriage, or that was when I lost my job. I mean, it's over. You just hit them again.
Yep.
You just illegitimize that again. So we'll get to that. Let's talk just for a minute about this. I think you as a dad of a son, I as a dad of daughters, how do we kind of bring those folders to the table and talk about the difference? Because there is some nuances and differences that are important. We're going to get into the next episode a little bit more about the masculine and feminine journeys. But honestly, the place we got to start and where our notes are really overlapping and in common. And this is the same for Sherry, because you're married to one of these feminine species. Robin, I'm married to one of these feminine species, and I know this is true. There's a little girl in them. Mm-hmm. There's a little boy in us. Mm-hmm. And yet we're in these roles now in our 50s. And two of us. Has Sherry hit 60?
No.
Oh, it's coming?
No. She's...
and one of us is 60.
She's got 2 years.
Oh, crap. So I'm the old man of the Zoe. So... But in this idea, though, I don't think there's much difference, or should be maybe any difference, in those first years. The questions that a little heart is asking, boy or girl, whether it's pink or blue, right? But they're still asking the same fundamental questions. Do you see me? Do you love what you see? And do you want to be with me?
Yeah.
And a dad,
boy or girl, watch me, daddy.
Yeah. And I think
both
that's
say it.
solid up until 5 and 6, easy. You know, gender comes in and is a part of that in how they want you to see them and how they want you to be with them. But that actually is a little bit older in 5, 6, 7, 8, and in the ways in which it gets more nuanced.
Yeah.
But that's the bottom line, man. That is the greatest common ground between a little boy and a little girl, and I think as we start to find that 10, 15, and growing percentage, 20% as time goes on the timeline, I would say to every man who's in the role of dad, that doesn't go away. When they're 30 or 13, boy or girl, they still want to know, do you see me? Do you love what you see? Do you want to be with me? And so, and I think that's the same. You brought it up earlier. That's when in front of 300 guys. What do you want to hear from your dad? And we got from 30 to 70 and plus year old men. I'm proud of you.
Yep.
So, and when they're little, you can catch them. It's easy. I mean, you actually have to. You got to keep them from bonking things.
Yeah.
You know. So you have a physical proximity to them that is just available to you. You know, and the older they get, the older we got, the less that proximity is available to you.
Mostly because we get wheels and we're gone.
I mean, bikes.
Yeah.
Gone for the day.
12 years old.
But yeah, and
you know?
and I don't know that that's as evident today, but but anyway, I think that this is the best ground to get oriented as a dad and as a man. Where do we go as fathers to have that question answered? Especially like right now, it could be tricky if your dad is even still alive. Mine is, yours isn't. Where do you take that question? And you know, to have.
My dad's been gone 31 years.
And I know you would love to talk to him and engage with him and have him see you now. For what purpose?
So I could hear him say he's proud of me.
Do you see me now?
Right.
Do you love what you see now?
Yeah.
Look at your grandson. Look at our home.
Yeah.
Look at our stuff. You know, and that's the power of that. So when they're younger, you know, they don't have quite the sophistication that we're expressing as adult men. Right. But start practicing when they're little. Yep. And if this is new to you, start practicing today.
Yeah.
That they're asking that question and the opportunity to answer it is available. And we're going to talk about that in the series. Finding the best ways to answer that.
Yeah, I was just thinking, man, how great would it be if the whole process was linear? Like if you just pause your children's growth, you know, stop time. They can just stay there, whatever age they are, 8 years old. You get all your healing and then go back and re-engage with them, right?
Oh, man.
Obviously, it doesn't work that way, but, we do want to encourage the guys listening. There's a way that you can engage in this. There's a way that you can go after your own heart, recover your own heart, get closer to God, undo some of the woundedness and the agreements and vows that have happened to you while not inflicting more on your children. You know, and you get better and better at that. And, I think a huge part of it, Michael, is getting to the place where, I mean, I don't know if your dad was like this. Our dads were of the generation where it's pretty common to say, well, I don't apologize for anything. I just kind of am how I am and deal with it.
Or in addition to that one, you could hear, or I did the best that I could.
Right.
That's a little softer,
which is also kind of a softer
version of that.
I just kind of am how I am. But moving away from that and just being ready to say, I missed it. I missed the opportunity. I'm so sorry. You've told a story on this podcast before with Hannah. about, not going to a basketball game and she lost and she blamed you because you're never there. And you've got hundreds and hundreds of hours of footage of you being at a game. But instead of saying, you don't know what you're talking about, we can go watch the film.
Yeah.
You enter into that moment.
And I
so
think, yeah, man,
it's possible to learn how to get free from the things that bind you to a false self way of being a dad.
Yeah.
At the same time that you're learning how not to inflict more woundedness at your kids.
Yeah, because the next game's coming. I mean, it's on.
Yeah, and there's no schedule to it.
No,
it's just coming.
It's happening. So such a good story for you to tell. I would say that now I see that story even differently than for sure when it happened. Because I didn't try to set the record straight with her. I tried to understand how she was feeling and thinking. But back to what we've already said, that this is just a teenage girl who was validating how important her dad's presence is.
That's right.
In the stands.
That's right.
And if you can't get that,
man,
then you can't get that story. This is not justifying why I wasn't there. This is understanding how important that is
for you to be there and to see her and all of that.
And we can't make them all.
And man, if that comes, but I love that you just went up. You're up on the observation deck now in that moment.
Yeah.
And if that moment, let's just say that moment, the button gets pushed, the accusation of I'm not doing enough as a dad or what. Man, that conversation not only goes a whole different direction, but there's also, because there are going to be conversations that go a whole different direction. We don't bout 1,000. None of us do. But the opportunity is like, whoa, wait a minute. I got a button push there.
Big button, disrespect.
Oh, man.
If that's the button.
But where's that button come from?
Mm-hmm.
And because you could just say, well, children should respect their elders. Well, who told you that?
Yeah.
And why with that energy?
How dare you talk to me like that?
Exactly.
Are you
so
kidding?
there's
a lot of ways to answer those.
Seeing those moments, even when we strike out, as an opportunity to do an investigation of, okay, that felt like a button getting pushed.
Yeah.
Now I can see the button and go in an exploration of where it came from and what is the woundedness, the agreement and the vow tied to it.
Yeah.
And hopefully get that thing off of there.
And wildly, so there's the invitation. And at the same time with the invitation comes another thing called the reinforcement.
Yeah.
So your kid can hit that button and just reinforce all those things that you said you'd never be like your dad. Mm-hmm. Because how you were trained as a son is going to come out as a dad in many, many ways. It's just very, very hard to break those chains because the enemy is that good at arranging for how they can best capitalize on one of those moments.
And I'm even thinking in my own story too, Michael, another way that goes is, well, the kid, like my kid, my Stephen, he learned that I had buttons that could be pushed. So he quit pushing them in out of fear.
Right.
Dad gets angry, dad gets loud, dad gets mean.
Yeah.
When I do this.
Everyone.
So I'm just not.
Yeah.
I'm not going to push any buttons at all.
It's complicated.
And live in fear of my dad.
It's complicated and it's simple and it's complicated.
Oof.
Every one of those guys whose sons has been 10 years, just give me enough game film. And we all could point to, boom, here's the one, here's the time, here's the moment, here's when he was gone. But he wasn't because he lived there. You kept feeding him.
Right. It's not his presence.
I mean,
but
it's rough. That's a rough idea.
Yeah.
So I think I want to leave a little bit of this for next time. But we're going to dive a little bit as we go forward, dive more into the masculine and feminine journeys and how we can actually not be as reactive even though there's going to be stuff that comes up that needs a response. That's different. How to be more responsive and less reactive. And then I think also in the next session, we're talking a little bit more too about forecasting, planning. They're on this timeline that you were on. Mm-hmm. And there are going to be calendar things that make themselves available to you. Some of them are ball games that you can't make because you're out of town, but even to talk to them about that.
Right.
We were just with our young friend just last week, and his wife told his son, yeah, Dad's gone for a couple days. He went fishing with the guy.
And he thought it would be a better idea to not tell his son before he left.
Because it would have been disruptive, and he was trying to avoid the disruption either way. Well, it might have been worse, but that's that brutal place for a dad to have the no-win. Mm-hmm. The no-win. So it's not like, well, do you take your licks in person, or do you leave it to mom? So I think this is where it can get so dicey and so tricky. But I want to say, yeah, where do you want to take your licks? Because you're going to take some. But if you can be forthcoming and share with your son or daughter and why I missed the game. Hey, and yes, the enemy's still going to come and say, well, your job is more important. His job is more important than me.
And who does he think he is anyway?
Just you're not gonna avoid the warfare associated with this role. We just said, roll back the tape 25 or 30 minutes. It's father.
Yeah.
If the enemy comes at Adam and Eve to get to the father, he's going to run the same plan.
That's right.
And same plays in this space.
Yep.
So all the more, are we equipped to be victorious? Are we equipped to protect? Are we equipped to provide? Are we really equipped? And the answer could be yes, but to your point earlier, but not as a disoriented man. If you don't know the unholy Trinity and what the hell they've been up to in your family's lineage,
right,
you won't know. Right. You won't know how to fight, and you won't know how to disarm, and you won't know how to say, honey, I hear you, I get it. You won't be able to translate some of the things they're saying.
Right.
And I get it.
You're
right.
Go straight to the false self is provoked.
But is it true that I'm never there?
Right.
Well, you weren't there today. Okay, you're right. I mean, how do you help kind of, what is that that's at the front of the Jeep the winch?
The winch.
How do you get the winch in there, or just jump down in the pit and prop them up and out and you climb out, So I think that's kind of some of the forecasts of where we're going. Proverbs 22:6 for sure. Train up a child. We got to talk about that. But this is how do we give men? This is a series about giving men who have the role as dad a real good chance.
Yeah.
That's what this series is about. So stay with us, hang with us, keep going. Hopefully this intrigues you or maybe provokes you a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so that you'll come with us on this Exploring More podcast series, the Dad series. We'll see you next time on the Exploring More podcast.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of Exploring More. The landing page for this podcast is zoe.org/podcast. That's ZOWEH.org/podcast, where you can find the show notes and various platforms to which we broadcast. You can also find us and the Life of More by visiting Zoe on YouVersion Bible app, Right Now Media, our Facebook page, and Zoe on Instagram and Twitter. Remember, with God there is always more, and you were made for more.